Welcome to the Scaleup Valley podcast, where we bring the best of the best to help you scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion. Today, we have a very special guest with us as we face this pandemic crisis. His name is Alberto Martínez Sanguino, the VP of Human Resources at Schneider Electric Iberia. Alberto, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you. Thank you, Mike. How are you?
Very well. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. We have been trying to do this show for a very long time, and for the delight of myself and the audience, we finally were able to make it, and we really appreciate your time, especially during these hectic times, to make time to record the podcast. It's not easy, but at the same time, it's when the audience and the community needs it the most. So I really appreciate you making the extra time of your busy agenda to be with us today, sharing your experiences, as we can all benefit from this. So let's start to get to know who is Alberto, and what is your role today, and what is Schneider Electric. So a general intro about yourself and the company.
Absolutely, and thank you, Mike. It's my pleasure to share the time with you. So as you said, I'm lucky enough to be leading the HR function for Iberian zone. So basically it's Spain and Portugal for Schneider Electric. Schneider Electric, as you may know, is the global specialist in energy management and industry automation. So we are helping basically the world to use more of their resources while using less of their resources. So making the most of their energy,
right,
and ensuring that life is on for everyone. No? So basically, we are in the two businesses that we are having. We are basically helping companies and helping customers to face the two main transitions that we are dealing with today. So one is the energy transition, and the other one is the Industry 4.0. So we've been switching the company over the last years from a product company to a really digital and technology company. Okay, with a more and more strong focus on software as we're speaking.
Yeah.
And we look into Spain and Portugal, where I'm sitting today.
Yeah.
We're talking about 4,000 employees and roughly 1 billion euro revenue.
Got it.
Okay, and we have pretty much a heterogeneous presence where we have, of course, our front office, our sales network, but also we have 6 different plants and a regional distribution center, basically. Mm-hmm. And basically, that's more or less
that.
Who we are. Yeah.
That's great. Straight to the point. Very clear. Thanks for that, Alberto. And just for the ones who are listening for the first time and listening, I'm sure that you recognize the name Schneider Electric, but it's a global Fortune 500 company, $30 billion plus in revenue, 134,000 plus employees across the world. Was founded in 1836 by Adolf Schneider and Joseph Eugene Schneider, if I'm pronouncing well the name, and headquarters in a small town that it's more difficult for me to pronounce in France. But something that it's really incredible is that this particular business, as we face this pandemic crisis, has faced the Spanish flu, has survived, has been facing World War I, World War II, still here. So for the ones who are now fighting outside and keeping their businesses alive, it is possible. So stay confident and leverage the crisis. It's the number 336 in sales in the global Fortune 500 ranking, and the position 199 in terms of market value, which is really impressive. So market value north of $50 billion plus US dollars. So as you all know, we are completely obsessed about scale. We have started this show discussing how to scale up or tech scale up of venture-backed businesses from 1 million to 100 million. Then we had Box and Qualtrics exit to SAP on their journey to 1 billion. In the show. So we have extended the threshold from 100 million to 1 billion, and with Bayer, BASF, Fujifilm, among other companies, we have started discussing how to scale a large corporate from 1B to 1-3. Largest company in the world, and just to conclude the intro, is Walmart. At this stage, Amazon just is number 2 now, and Walmart is almost the double of the second position of Walmart with 540 B plus of revenue. So there is no company who has ever achieved in revenues 1 trillion, as it is our logo, and we keep our slogan, and we keep discussing how to go from 1B to 1-3 with large corporates. So again, Schneider Electric already is in the 30B plus group, one of the 336 companies with more revenues in the planet. I would repeat, 336, born in 1836 as we speak. So long term keeps being really important. So let's go for the 3 principles that we always discuss on the show. Number 1, radical focus. Number 2, world-class leadership. And number 3, a culture of execution. So we have all prepared our plans for 2020, 2023, 2030. And in March, in China, a little bit early, December, January, this pandemic crisis erupted, and we needed to completely recalibrate and replan, reforecast everything, and be very flexible and very intelligent in the way we manage our emotions to redirect, refocus. Especially, you are a part of a role which is HR and people, which is really, really important in any crisis. So how did you redefine the priorities after this pandemic crisis emerging, and how is it going for you the last almost a little bit more than 3 months, Alberto? Sorry for the long question and the long introduction.
No, of course. No, but it's interesting because when we talked for the first time, I mean, I think we had no idea what was coming, right, on our first discussion. So it's I would say to use the word interesting to see how the priorities have shifted over the last 3 months and how we are again reshifting those priorities, right? So we had 2 phases. I think when we looked into the last 3 months, basically, we had the crisis mode when we started this whole situation. When we had to really look into the short term and put in place different set of actions to make sure we cover the main priorities, which at that time it was, and it's still today, is first of all, the security of our people, right, and the safety of our people. So health of our people has been obviously the first main priority and continues to be, to make sure that we track all the employees that could be suspicious of being infected by COVID-19. Obviously, to set in place all the health and safety procedures to make sure that our offices, our factories were safe for our people to keep on the activity. Just to highlight it, that we've never stopped the activity over the last 3 months in the company. We'll continue to deliver in our factories. We continue to visit customers, of course, on a virtual mode. And our field services employees have continued to serve our customers and doing all the interventions that were forecasted, because the first priority was to ensure the safety of those people. Okay, so that was the first priority in this crisis mode. Second was the business continuity. So luckily, we have a very strong process of a business continuity plan where we define every year we drive a revision on this business continuity plan. And one, of course, is the pandemic plan. So how do you ensure that the continuity level is at the right track? And that's what we've done, is to really recover those business continuity plans, implement them in the different offices and in the different functions. And then of course we've been looking into the business from a point of business continuity. We've been looking into, I would say, two main priorities as well. One, of course, is cash and costs. So to make sure that in the short term we analyze our structure. So really to make sure that we set a tactical saving plan to make sure that we adapt our activity to the level that it was at that moment, and obviously ensuring again the continuity of cash, because as you know, when there is crisis time, the companies don't close because they are in negative figures. They close because they don't have enough cash.
No cash.
So cash is the priority. same as looking into the second priority, which is our relationship with the customers, to make sure that even if we are on lockdown, we are closer to us customers as ever. And obviously here we're lucky enough because we have a working from home policy since 10 years now. I'm now speaking about Spain and Portugal, of course, but which is the area I'm familiar with. But we had this working from home policy working from 10 years. So for us, it was super easy to switch the next day, I would say, from office presence to a working from home presence, almost 95% of the population, right? So we just have to adjust it, I guess, as many other companies, the capacity of our systems. But it worked really well from day one. But it was not the case for our customers. So many of our customers were not at that level of working from home. Some of them, of course, they were, but we've managed to keep them close to all of them, okay, on a virtual mode, so they feel accompanied on those difficult times. Okay, not only from a sales point of view, but from a support point of view as well, and it's been recognized by many of our customers. So those were, I would say, the four main priorities during this crisis mode, and then we are moving to just to use a name, to an attack mode, right? So okay, it seems hopefully the worst of the health crisis have passed. Now we are facing an economic crisis. And
in terms of context, you are sitting in Barcelona, Spain, so just for the audience to understand.
You're right. Yeah. You're right. So we are now facing this deconfinement phase with the government plan and our own plan as well. So we are resuming our presence to the offices this week, actually. So again, with a very safe and secure plan for all our employees to come back slowly to the offices using our
again, an extra layer of context. We are talking last week of May.
Yeah. Okay. So the idea, again, on a safe way for them to return to the offices, to resume their activities in any of the cases. So now we're entering in this attack mode, so to say, okay, now that we are exiting the health crisis, hopefully, and we will be under control over the next months, and we'll have a vaccine, hopefully, in the next months to come, or the next year. We are really looking into, okay, the world is going to be different for sure, okay, and what we are facing now is a change of paradigm shift. Yeah. So we really need to look on, okay, first, as I told you, how do we de-escalate our offices, how the people can come back to a certain normal, okay? That's the first point and the first priority. Then, of course, we need to look into the new ways of working, right? So the reality is we are now working virtually most of our time. We've been working virtually most of our time. So we really need to make sure we leverage what we've learned over the last 3 months to make sure that our salespeople, before were visiting, I don't know, for example, 80% of their time, customers face to face. Now, perhaps they don't need to. Okay, so how do we leverage? And this can be really simple to say, but how can we really leverage the learning that we've acquired over the last month? How do we really make sure that we implement the new methodologies, or we even reinforce the new ones? Okay, how do we build more lean structures to make sure the decision process is more agile? Okay, so this is something that we really need to think and really need to build up to make sure that we work differently after this. Okay, obviously the number 3 priority on this attack mode is come back to growth, right? So we know that okay, we've all seen the news, we've all seen the different forecasts of how the GDP is going to drop in the different countries, in Spain, and so on and so forth. But we really need to make sure that we recover our track, okay, to make sure that even if we know that this year is going to be difficult in terms of results, okay, we really focus on those segments and those customers that are really going to grow quickly, so we can recover quickly as well, while at the same time we adapt our organization. Because the reality is we're going to have a new size of organization, and we need to adapt our structure to that. And something very interesting that our CHRO mentioned last week is in order to achieve all that, to this safety escalation, the new ways of working, to go back to growth, to adjust our organization, there are two things that we need to develop further, which is trust and resilience. And this is something that it proved that it worked really well these last 3 months, okay, where we've seen that trust has helped to ease the decision process and to accelerate the decision process in many initiatives, and as well as the resilience to really face the difficult situations, the uncertain situations that we are facing and that we are going to face over the next months, when we don't really have all the information, when we don't really know where the market, where the business is going, but we need to take some decisions based on that.
Amazing. And I had a cough crisis as you were commenting. And thanks for going a little bit longer so I could recover and get some water and cough and do a little bit of mute exercise. So that's a great overview about how to keep radical focus. And going to the second ingredient critical to scale that we always discuss on the show, which is world-class leadership / team. I'm adding the component of team because really it's all about team, playing as a team. We tend to talk about of peacetime and wartime, and there are leaders who are more suited for peacetime and wartime. But we have been concluding in the show with different guests that we have been hosting that really a complete leader needs to be prepared to shift from wartime to peacetime and to have all the, a complete leadership style and different leadership tools so he can use in different contexts and adapt his leadership style to the needs of the team and the needs of the company. So what do you think about that? So what are the kind of what are the emergent leaders of this crisis and the world-class leaders that you are seeing as the VP of HR and the VP of People of Iberia? What do you see as the best leaders doing during this chaotic time, especially the last 13 weeks that you have been observing at Schneider Electric Iberia?
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you said, over the last weeks, we've seen really the reaction of the people, the reaction of the different managers that we have in the company. And this is really where you can see the real leadership rising. Right? And you can really see what the good leaders, I would say, or the leaders that are really engaging more the teams, what they are doing differently than the others. No? And I think that it's not really changing to what we were seeing before. I think basically it has reinforced what we were saying before and what we were reading before in the different articles. But the reality is, first of all, what the true leaders are really doing is strengthening the sense of purpose. And that has been clear. I mean, when you have uncertain times where you face uncertain situations and you really know, and people is sometimes concerned, sometimes afraid of what's really happening, they are really strengthening the purpose. So they are really making sure that we all know what's the purpose of the company, what is their purpose within that purpose.
Right.
Okay? So at the end is to really create the emotional bond with the company. The people needs to really know what the purpose is. And this is something that I've seen over the last months to make sure that, okay, even if the situation is uncertain, even if we don't know how the market is going to evolve, let's not forget that our purpose is this. Okay, and that really helps on I would say diminishing the sense of uncertainty over within the teams. No? So I would say that's the main one. So and of course the second is to inspire. So to be able to transmit, okay, you can know the purpose, but if you're not able to transmit this sense of purpose, inspiring other people, it's really difficult. So really the emotional impact, how you deal with emotions of the people, how you develop your empathy with the people, and at the time that you're transmitting this purpose, it's super important as well. And this is something that I've seen. So the people that has been the best leaders over this crisis are the ones that have been able to deal with the emotions of those people. People in very different situations. You have people that keep going to the factory to work, when they were feeling unsafe. You have people that have been locked at home for 2 months in different situations with kids, without kids, living by themselves. So you have a lot of different situations, and they've been able to deal with those emotions as well. As you mentioned very well, versatility is key. So you really need to make sure, and the best leaders should be able to jump from a strategic approach to a more operational approach, right? And you need to really switch, because what we see more and more is that the hierarchy is more and more lean. So you will have less and less layers, and more you have multidisciplinary teams. You have transversal teams. You have liquid teams at the same time. So you have a team of 10 people that maybe tomorrow will be a different set of people with different set of skills, because you have a different project to lead. So you really need to make sure that this manager is able to handle this team and to really make sure that they make the best of them on those times. So I would say those are the main points that I've seen over the last 3 months, basically.
That's an amazing one, and I love getting back to the basics, right? So there is so much uncertainty outside. Something that shouldn't change is the mission, the vision, and the values, and keeping repeating those when everyone is losing hope, and keeping repeating, this is why we exist. This is why Schneider Electric exists, and why Schneider Electric matters to the world. Yeah. This is what we are trying to conquer in the next 10 to 20 years, right? This is the focus. We are living a crisis. We have been living so many crises in the last 200 years since we were founded in 1836. Let me look to my notes. So this is another one. It will be tough. Yes, let's not be innocent, ingenuous. But at the same time, we have what it takes to face this and win this and get out of this even stronger. So I really love the way you put it. And again, in terms of focus, first things first, right? So let's take care of our people. Let's take care of our customers. Let's take care of the continuity of the company, and let's keep strong going forward into the direction of our vision. So it's really world-class leadership, this second ingredient.
The end is, I heard one sentence that I think was a couple of weeks ago, and you really need to transmit the people an intelligent optimism. So you really need to keep optimistic. Yeah, you really need to keep being optimistic, but on an intelligent way. So you really need to make sure that people understand, okay, we'll come out of this stronger. But of course, we cannot forget the situation we are in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it can work in the opposite way. It seems that the leader is not aware of the dangers of the situation. So I'm not very confident to follow this leader that is not seeing that we might be killed as we move forward. And finally, we go to the last point, which is culture of execution. As you said before, and you have commented already several times during this show, working from home is now the new normal. We are adapting to a new way of work. We are learning a lot of things that we can do in a much more efficient way. You were also talking about the efforts of keeping some of the good habits that were created during this pandemic crisis to make the company even stronger, the culture even stronger. We all know what are the rhythms that makes a company works well. So it's kind of the basics, one-on-ones, the weeklies, the monthlies, the dailies, the quarterlies, the annual meeting rhythms, the middle management forums. So, and then every single company has their own rhythms. But is there any specific rhythm that is working very well for you as the VP of Human Resources Iberia? And do you see any leader among the leaders that you have the privilege to work with that are using a specific habit or a specific routine or meeting rhythm with their teams that is really creating a lot of impact that maybe our audience and community might apply with their teams as well?
Yeah, I would say, if I have to mention, first of all, never focus on the long-term vision. Never forget the long-term vision, right? And again, coming back to the purpose. Okay, so what I see really standing out on the leaders that I'm working with, and I have the privilege to work with, is really don't forget. I mean, I'm balancing the short term with the long term. So again, coming back to the purpose, let's not forget what it is important and where we are heading into, making sure that still, even in this situation, we allocate time to learn and to think. Okay, so to really keep on learning new ways, to really analyze what we are doing. And this is what I've seen the leaders that are doing it great, is really making their team analyze what they've been doing over the last weeks that has been working really well, because at the end, this is a learning experience. Okay, so you really need to build this concept around this experience to really make sure that you learn it, and then the moment you learn it, you will implement it, right? Because you've been doing it over the last weeks. So this is one of the things I've been seeing. So learning, really, again, coming back to purpose, long-term versus short-term. I would say those are the real habits that I'm seeing more, especially in these situations when we've been in lockdown and working from home, and at the end, you mix a lot the personal life with the professional life, because the place you are is the same place where you are eating and where you are spending time with your family and working. So those leaders have been able to keep the concentration and to keep the focus in over the last weeks. So I would say the most I have been impressed with are those ones, the ones that keep allocating time for learning, and again, being super transparent in the communication with their teams as well. Transparency and communication is key on those times.
Amazing. And we come to the last question of the show, and one of our favorite ones. Let's see if you pass the test. so if you would have the opportunity to meet Alberto when you were joining Schneider Electric, and meet that Alberto at that time in front of you, what advice would you offer to him or to your younger self?
That's an interesting one. Because I cannot return, right, to that age.
Have a conversation with him as it was me, and just let me know, what advice would you give me?
No, it's no, to be honest, what I would tell to that person is, you are going to have a super exciting time. You are going to learn a lot. You're going to meet a lot of interesting people. So really, this is the important piece, right? So the important thing is the people you're going to meet, because learn as much as possible from them, because these are what really can bring you the knowledge. Have fun on the way. Relax, basically, because stress is bad, pressure is good. This is what I always say, right? So have fun, learn as much as possible from the people, and I'd say pretty much it. Right.
Amazing. Thanks for the advice. And Alberto also, the younger Alberto also says thank you. And Alberto, thank you so much for making the time to share your experience with us. We had all a lot of fun, and I'm sure that your show will contribute to some laughs and some lessons to be applied in the upcoming days in everyone that is listening us. Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
And to our community, thanks for being on that side. We keep bringing you the best of the best, so you can scale your business from 1 million to 1 trillion and get stronger out of this pandemic crisis. Stay strong, stay positive, and stay focused on our mission, vision, and values. See you soon. Keep scaling.